Great to have you on. Thank you so much, Mr. Novis. Appreciate you big time. I want
Just
you
call
to
me
please.
Scott.
There we go. Even better, Scott. I'd love for you to please introduce yourself, give background on your company right now, and what you currently do, and we'll touch on your backstory. But would love to start off with that before we dive right in.
Sure. My name is Scott Novis. I am the founder and creator of GameTruck. That is the largest national chain of video game birthday party. It's that big trailer that will pull up in front of your house. It's like a living room on wheels full of video games, and your kids can go inside and play games for hours. We've been doing it since the first party was held in August of 2006. We franchised in 2008. So we're coming up on 20 years of being doing this. We've entertained over almost 15 million gamers. And as to what I do, I like to joke it's as little as I can get away with, which some days is a lot more than other days. But for the most part, I fill the role of, if you're familiar with Traction or Rocket Fuel, I am the CEO, but I'm really the company visionary. So that means I'm working on culture, clients, and cash, but also what's next. And I'm blessed to have a phenomenally talented team of people that are excellent at running the business efficiently and well. And that's kind of a little bit about my background, a little bit more than me finding GameTruck. I have 2 engineering degrees. I'm named on 11 patents. My gameology is 15 published video game titles with 30 million units sold, 3 billion in revenue. Biggest video game was Cars Day and Date with the movie. And I have been involved in entrepreneurial communities for the last decade. And so one of my passion projects is also coaching business owners to grow their business. And that's it. I mean, there's one other thing that I guess I say passion project, really thing I do spend a lot of time and energy on is trying to help parents deal with, help coaching their sons through video games. And so they don't end up with an unhealthy video game obsession. I think, like a breakfast cereal, video games can be part of a healthy adolescent upbringing, but not if it's the only thing you eat. So how can I help parents make better choices and help guide their kids through what should be a fun, engaging part of their life, but sadly, I feel an unfair or disproportionate number of young men end up trapped in video games. And by the time their parents realize that they're trapped, that's a tough lift. So I try to get out early and let them know what decisions and choices they can make to help their kids much earlier. And that's something I'm actually passionate about, is we need more good men. And it starts by raising good boys to become good men.
Amen. Amen. That's a super powerful resume. For anybody who doesn't know, Scott is my mentor. I just joined EOA, Entrepreneur Organization Accelerator, here in the Arizona chapter. And he was the president of the entire organization last year. And now I got lucky enough to be paired with him as a mentor. So just learning from you already, 1 month in, I mean, the one day we had together was incredible. You shot me straight. We had a deep philosophical discussion over text, which was awesome. I'm like in
I
the
like how
car.
you say that. It was like, you asked me a
Great.
question and I answered it. I was
Yep.
like, without a lot of concern whether or not you like that answer. So maybe that's the straight part.
Love it. I'd rather that than these guys who are, kind of just sugarcoating everything and don't tell you the truth. I mean, it's that tough love that, that's what makes, especially as a coach, right? You want your clients or anybody to get results. You got to shoot them straight sometimes instead of just tell them what they want to hear. So super cool. And also the very humble resume of what you just said. I know working with Disney, doing everything. I mean, 9% of people in the world are business owners in America, I believe. And I think, I don't know the stat, like 80% of them fail after 3 years or something like that. So to get to
It's
the
hard.
point where you've built GameTruck and using the franchise model, and going through the ups and downs about that, I want to dive deeper into what that looked like, but it's super impressive. So after that podcast that I've listened to, your kind of story, how you built GameTruck, I remember one of the struggles you had was after you built the franchise model, people would come to you and you'd sell the vision, But as far as the execution of it on the back end, if customers were complaining, or the operations side, that was tougher to scale. And then you woke up one day after 10 years of kind of going back and forth, learning the what worked, what didn't, said, we're going to focus on marketing and sales. So what made you realize that overall? And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but what made you realize that overall to finally break through that and continue to scale that model?
So, no, thank you. I guess I'd like to reframe it a little bit and get to the answer to your question. Like, why did I decide to focus on what I decided to focus on?
Yeah.
One of the things I see I was just at a local high school, did a Shark Tank, and bunch of young kids, young people. Look, I got gray hair. You're all young. You're all kids to me. We'll just ask the customer. We will ask the customer. The customer will lead us to success. And there's some truth in that. You do want to pay attention to your customers. You do want to deliver value for them. However, one of the responsibilities of the entrepreneur is we see things other people don't see. Think about GameTruck. I didn't invent portable generators. I didn't invent trailers. I didn't invent video games. I didn't invent flat panel screens. Nobody put them together the way I put them together until I did that. The whole world had access to the exact same information I had access to, but I saw something nobody else saw. There was no customer I could have asked that would have answered a question, oh, build GameTruck. None of them. I had to come up with that. So I led the market. I took a risk. I listened to customers and said, I think this experience is what you're going to want. And I built it, and I got lucky. I was right. Now, I did a lot of homework, but until you poke the box, sometimes you just have no idea what the response is going to be. Then, despite that success, I fell into the same trap lots of business owners fall into. I'll just ask my customers what they want. The problem is they don't know
what they want,
right? It's not that they don't know what they want. They don't know what's possible. So very often what they do is they take what they know, and this is very human, and extend it. I want more of this, better, faster, cheaper. Or they tell you what they're struggling with, and they go, this is hard for me. And so then you focus on solving that problem. And what happened is I took my hands off the steering wheel and I let them steer. And we ended up in a situation of, here's an analogy. I tell this story. Real thing happened. I was going for a walk one day and I look and there's two dogs going down the street and they look so happy. And they have collars on and leashes, but one dog has the other dog's leash in his mouth and the other dog has the other dog's leash in his mouth. They're walking each other. They don't know they're lost. They're happy. They're just having a great time. That was me and my franchise owners, is asking them what they needed. They'd never built a franchise company. This is the first business they'd ever owned. So they're telling me all the things they're struggling with. So we started following them around. We were like those two dogs, leash in hand, go, let's go. Where were we going? What were we doing? What I realized coming back was when I had to take back, when I was talking about being a visionary, was like, what do people actually need? And it really gets down to what's the life they're trying to live. And it's being successful business owner. And I don't know any version of that which says there's zero problems in your life, right? You're going to have problems. So trying to eliminate everybody's problems wasn't the answer. It was, what is the right problem to eliminate? What is the right problem to focus on? What is the thing that we can do? Like we know what all of our capabilities are. The owners don't. The franchise owners don't know what we're capable of. They only see a tiny portion of us. So when we got the team together, we realized what this was really about and what our highest value was: owner success. What makes a successful franchise owner? Sales, profitable sales. Okay, that's what matters. Maybe they're struggling with where to buy tires. Maybe they're struggling with how to reduce costs. Maybe they're struggling with, their own, how do they hire staff? There's lots of things we can help with. But what became absolutely crystal clear is if you have revenue, you have a chance to fix all those other problems. You fix all those other problems, you have no revenue, you're out of business.
Right.
So we reorganized the entire company around one core mission. We
Was
needed
that
to
an
be
aha
the
moment?
best possible. Yeah, that was it. It
So
was like
it was an
we
aha moment. It
needed
wasn't
to
like a
be.
gradual thing. It was, you woke up one day and you're like, this is it.
We debated about it, right? Looking back
Okay.
on it, it felt like a cascade. Like it was, oh, it's super obvious. And we had a lot of false starts. It was not like we flipped a switch and we were suddenly good at this. It was the commitment to get good at it. We knew that's what needed to happen most. And I'm the one that led it. And so there's this ongoing process of onboarding and convincing people to, do we have the right skills? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right technology? Do we have the right company? It was just relentless. So that's when it became like Jim Collins is like hedgehog. What's our hedgehog going to be? We are going to be the best sales and marketing company for one brand, GameTruck. I'm like, that's it. And it took us several years to figure out how to do that. So the decision was clear, but organizing everybody and then executing to make it effective and true, that was a slog, man. That took a long time. That wasn't a 5-minute process.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. When it comes down to like the visionary operator type dynamic, I mean, obviously you're more of a visionary. You said it yourself. Do you think you need an operator? And if so, should they be an equity partner, or do you think that you can do both as one person?
Okay. I deluded myself into thinking I could do both for years. And I realized there was, which meant I was terrible at both because I was deluded. It's
Bless you.
I've come to embrace a concept, that is the concept of dynamic tension. We get this wrong all the time. You're sitting in a chair. I'm sitting in a chair. We think we're balanced. We're not balanced. We're in equilibrium. And if somebody snuck up behind either of us, it could tip us over very easily. We're not balanced. Balance is effortful. Like stand on one foot. That's balance. You got to focus on it. It takes work. And you have muscle groups working on either side, pulling in each direction. So when we say, oh, can you be the visionary and the operator? Well, you're then like a tent pole with one rope. How stable are you going to be? Not very. But if you can get somebody to complement you, really, to, that complementarity, didn't say compatible, I said complement. Then what happens, you can push on each other and you can create tremendous stability. So there's a term now that is making its way through brain science called allostasis, and it means balance through dynamic adjustment. That's what I needed, was a partner we could dance with, pushing on each other, and get the balance right. The problem with, if it's just you, here's the problem, Tyler. When you argue with yourself, you always win.
That's deep.
You're not going to be balanced.
Do they have to have equity?
And
or
guess who's the easiest? Guess who the easiest person is to lie to? Yourself.
Right.
So you got 2 strikes against you.
Right. Right. Do you think they have to have equity, or do you think they can just be, you can hire them on? It doesn't have to be an equity deal.
Okay. So we operate under a limited liability company. And so that makes equity complicated. Because one of the things that everybody talks about equity, and a lot of people have sort of a mental model of, vulture capital, venture capital, whatever you want to call it, and C corps and whatever, and shares and options and all this other stuff. But for small businesses, are super common, and some very big businesses too, a really common structure is an LLC. If you give somebody equity, you just haven't given them money. You've also given them liability. Things go bad, the owners are on the hook for it. It's a marriage. So if you're going to give somebody equity, you're also handing them a humongous liability with that. Do they want it? And what if they don't? So in my business, what we ended up creating was a profit interest structure that gave key employees the ability to participate in the financial upside of the business, but shielded them from the downside liability of the business.
Nice.
Doesn't usually exist in a publicly traded company or a C corp or an S corp because they have shares. We have percentage units, and it's way more complicated. but it also has some very real advantages. So for me, what I really want to create is people that are vested in the success of the business, and they have an incentive to create long-term value in the business because they're going to participate in creating that long-term value. Equity is one tool to do that. There are others that are available. The one I outlined, a profit interest, is another way to do it.
Right. Right. If you're doing a profit share, what if they want to have a piece, if you ever want to sell the company, like a phantom equity type deal where it's like, hey, you'll get 10% if the business ever sells.
That is contemplated as part of the profit interest, because that would be a liquidity event, which is a form of profit, which they would participate in.
Okay. Okay. So it does include that. Okay. Upon the execution of it. Okay. Got it. Very interesting.
There's other systems too. There's a really good book I recommend if you're thinking this way called Built to Sell. And he outlines a phenomenal incentive program for privately held companies that creates a sort of golden handcuffs. Because look, here's one of the practical problems you brought up with equity. Yay, we sell. Everybody makes a lot of money. Now the executive team wants to leave. What did the other company just buy? Now, maybe that's what they want, but a lot of times, especially in today's sort of knowledge service work industry, the company is the people. Those are the people that know how to run the process. Right. They're the ones that can execute the vision. You need them to stay. So if they cash out at the moment the business is sold and they all split, your whole deal could unravel. Right. So how do you take care of them and transition through new ownership and everything else? That book comes up with a really clever plan that creates an incentive for people to not only be rewarded for building a valuable company, but then also rewarded for staying. Makes sense. Sometimes you want to look past the transaction. It's people talk about exit as if that's the end of the game.
How do you balance, if I have like my team, right? Like a lot of them are there because necessarily like they see the vision. They enjoy me. Obviously, if I were to sell it, maybe they leave. Maybe they don't want to work for some other guy. So how do you balance being a boss who gets stuff done, who pushes the needle forward, but then also being a leader who people enjoy actually working for? Like it's hard to be, I struggle with that, of being the nice guy versus the leader who's like, no, let's move the ship forward.
Oh,
how have you kind of like, I know it's not binary, it's a continuum, but do you kind of lay on one side more than the other? What's your perspective on that?
Okay. So my perspective on that is I, like you, it's way easier to be popular and be liked. Yeah. However, I also have to balance that against my natural temperament. So I'm a fan of the 4-color framework. Some of them refer to as DISC, the variation of this. I mean, this is ancient. This goes way back. But the version I like is from a book called I Said This, You Heard That, by a lady named Kathleen Edelman. And another a coach, really brilliant facilitator, teamwork guy. I love the way he framed it. He took the colors, so it's like red, yellow, green, blue, but he assigned personas to them that make sense. So a yellow that's my characterization, is a spontaneous motivator. Lots of energy, life of the party, fun, let's go, creative, but there's baggage. Details, apparently those are important to somebody, not me. And there's sort of an impatience that I'm like, I get bored easy, fast. Like, what's going on? ADHD and my yellowness go hand in hand. Red is a driver. Okay, a driver personality. They're going to get stuff done. They are gas. Like, let's go, set it on fire. And a yellow tends to be action-oriented, people-oriented. Reds tend to be action-oriented, task-oriented. And what I have found is when I have reds on my management team, we complement each other because we both want to move fast, but I will make sure we've got healthy people culture dynamic. They will make sure work gets done. And what amazes me is my team loves the red operations manager. Like, he scares me to death because I'm like, he's going to make me do stuff and hold me accountable. And, oh, that's horrible. Yeah. And the team love him because it's never capricious. It's never emotional. It's
Yep.
always like, what do you need to be successful, and celebrating people's success, but then calling them out when things aren't done and then working through the problems that, sometimes we design work badly. We design work we think can be done. It can't be done. And he'll just grind in there and solve it until it's fixed. And then everybody knows what they need to do and away they go. The other two categories are relationship masters. Everybody in our sales team is green. That's the green. They are the moms selling to moms. They're amazing at it. Their secondary characteristic is analyst, detail oriented, blue. Analysts are all about give me the details. And so you have two bright drivers, me and Brandon, driving the company, and we have an army of greens and blues that are like, all right, tell us where we need to go and tell us how we're going to get there. And they will do the work that, to be honest, I don't do. I can't show up at work and do the exact same thing every day. They love it. They love it. It blows me away. They're like, okay, what's the environment you're going to thrive in? So as an answer to your question is, I embrace who I am, and I try to hire people that complement my skills. We work together to create a dynamic tension that seems to be the best for both of us. We check each other. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes it's like, dude, we work. And in the balance of that, we create an environment where our team can thrive. That to me is the real purpose of leadership. Can you create an environment where your team can thrive? Because if they're thriving, the business is thriving, our customers are thriving, we get to keep doing this.
Great answer. If you were to put your eggs in one
it was
basket,
super long and I rambled a lot, but thank you for sticking with me.
It's a great answer. If you were to put all your eggs in one basket and you're a business owner, maybe they're not as successful as you yet, they're learning, right? Would you put, as a business owner, if you were to focus on one thing, would it be building in today's age? Would it be AI implementation? Would it be building your brand on social media? Would it be investing in your team? Is there one sector or industry or method maybe that you would double down on right now to protect yourself against the future?
Oh man. Okay, so here's my thought. The future isn't someplace you go or discover, it's something you create. So what's the future you're trying to create right now? What decisions are you making right now to create the future? My current company, my qualifying company, we say NEO, my day job, the thing that there's several businesses, but the big dog is GameTruck. And that purpose of that company is about creating feelings of belonging through play. So if I look at it, it's a human connection business. What role does AI have in creating more human to human in-person connection? I don't have an application for that yet. I can use AI to streamline processes. I can use AI to do more automation. I could use AI to perhaps amplify our efforts and make our people even more brilliant than they already are. However, at this moment in the development of our business, our number one thing has to do with making sure that our staff and our teamwork is absolutely top notch so that we show up. We are now remote managing businesses across the country, and we just doubled in size because we finally figured out how to solve this problem. And it's a non-trivial problem. There are no other businesses that do what we do the way we do it. There are no other that I can find local entertainment national brands. There's no catering company like that. There's no DJ company, no photo booth company, no single laser tag brand like that. There's GameTruck, like video game parties. You can call us, we'll come to your house. And it's a national brand. And that's really unusual. And so for us, our number one thing has to do with investing in the systems and tools to make our team as reliable and dependable as possible to make sure that we execute that vision, because we are making a promise to our customers that we're going to show up and their kids are going to have a great time. So it's all about people for me. So everything we do is about removing the barriers to achieving that mission. Show up, make sure people are having a great time. We have three things: got to be safe. So all the systems to make sure the equipment is safe to operate. Confident. That means every staff knows what they're doing, how to do it. They have the resources to do it, so they can be calm and confident. And then when they're at a party, they can be 100% engaged with the players and the parents. We do those three things. We believe we have a successful business. So that dominates my attention. And our focus right now is scaling out systems that make it possible for a multitude of people in a variety of states to behave in ways that leave us safe, confident, and engaged.
Growing up, if you zoom out a little bit, did you ever know you were going to hit these heights of success with these businesses? Did you always know it was in you at some point, or did you kind of just stumble upon it, take action every day, and woke up and said, wow, look, I've done some shit? Like, what did you know it was always in you, or was it kind of just, you just took action and you
I
woke
would
up?
like to reject the premise that I've grown up. I think Walt Disney said, growing old is mandatory, growing up is optional. No, I had no idea. I really had no idea. I really never expected to be an entrepreneur or a business owner. I grew up in Detroit, auto industry. I had dreams of being a good manager. I wanted to be a good manager because so many people in my family worked for bad managers. So I thought as a kid, I'll learn how to be a good manager. I came out to the desert and saw Motorola as a company was fighting Japanese semiconductor dominance. And I'm like, okay, there's a company that gets it. Let's go. How do I participate? I got a job there. That's where I got most of my patents. And when I came back, went to Europe because I needed overseas work experience to get a master's of international management. And when I came back, I got the job I thought I needed the degree to get. So I just kept working. And then finally I realized I didn't want to be involved in making silicon. Selling sand sucked. It was rough. We didn't get any recognition for the intellectual property we created. Companies just wanted to pay for the cost of the parts plus a little bit versus, we're putting magic in a gold package, the stuff that makes your cell phone work. And we're getting 50 cents to $1 a chip. And Microsoft could put a piece of ideas on a 10-cent plastic CD-ROM and charge $500. Man, we were in the wrong business. I wanted to be in the software business. And a buddy of mine happened to call me and offered me the opportunity to run his video game studio. And I went, I'll do that. And we did that for a while. And when I climbed the corporate ladder, and then it was my turn to get off. I didn't know there was an exit. And it was like, you're out of here. And it wasn't exactly, it was more like, this is now a miserable existence and I need to leave. So I left, exit stage left, as they say. And then I went, now what? What am I going to do? And at 40 years old, I thought, I'm not interviewing for a job. I'm just not doing that anymore. So what can I do? And I just started looking at all the different opportunities that were out there. I looked at buying some franchises and I interviewed and looked at a lot of them and went, these all seem lame to me. I think I could come up with something better myself. And suddenly, it happened at my son, took him to a pizza arcade for his 7th birthday. And we're standing around and I'm like, these video games are terrible. This environment is awful. This is not, the arcades died. We lost the social environment to play video games. And I'm like, what would that look like today? What would be the best environment to play the best video games with your friends? And I started working on that idea. It took me over. I built a prototype in my garage, went to Costco, bought every kind of TV you could buy. Loved Costco because they took them all back. And we just kept playing with it and iterating and trying PlayStation and Xbox. And really what sealed the deal was Halo on the Xbox. You could put 4 Xboxes connected to 4 big, at that time were exotic 50-inch plasma TVs. They were like $2,500 a pop. They had just come down from like 7,000. So you have 10 grand in TVs, 4 consoles, 16 people could play that game together. And I'm like, this is it. this is the future. This is what we're going to create an environment where everybody's playing together, having an absolute blast. And I'm like, how do I put this on wheels? And that became the very first video game trailer. And that's launched the whole company.
That's crazy. You just took massive action. Do you think we talked about this briefly on the first time we talked on Zoom with when it comes to Peter Thiel's program and XYZ, but do you think that obviously your experience in the corporate world has helped you immensely when it comes to founding, starting, growing your own company to this height? But do you think it's a requirement for even like maybe a young entrepreneur like me, or do you think
Not
that
even a little bit.
okay,
What it gave me that I think young people get automatically is it gave me the overconfidence to go do it. Because it was like almost nothing about being in corporate America prepared me to run my own company.
really?
The real problems that I would face, I just hadn't faced. I work for Disney, man. I never worried about making payroll. Never worried about them making payroll. You needed something, you ordered it. Like there were just so many day-to-day problems that were never an issue as part of a big company. And the things that were an issue about a big company didn't exist at all in my small business. And
Interesting.
so all of a sudden I was like, what? Like how to, I wanted to hire somebody at Disney. I can hire anybody, right?
Hmm.
It's Disney. We have unlimited resources. The hard part was getting a requisition to hire somebody. So once you had approval to add headcount, you were like golden. Have at it. The world's your oyster. You felt like you could hire anyone. You're running a small company. You're like, I need people. How do I get them? Nobody knows who I am. Then why would they work for me? Like all these things would just swirl in place, and they were just totally different. So I think one of the things that is an advantage is a little healthy ignorance. You don't know, so you give yourself the benefit of the doubt. And you're like, I can do this, and it. You got to be willing to learn. I will say there is one other thing you said about massive action. There was one tool I recommend it all the time, and it's if you Google it, you can find it's called the flower exercise or the pedal exercise. What you do is there's like this diagram, and you write in what are you good at, what are you interested in, where do you want to live, what do you? It's basically a personal psychological inventory of your strengths and your desires. And so GameTruck was born out of I coached youth baseball, so I loved working and I understood young boys. I made video games, so I doubly understood young boys. So I got video games, I got working with kids, and I've got an engineering background. So I could build things. And so all of a sudden it was like I wasn't afraid to assemble the parts and the components I needed to design the video game trailer so that it worked reliably and consistently to create an experience that I thought young boys, in particular at that time, 2005, they had laser tag and bowling. There was nothing else catering to kids, at least boys. And when we were doing the prototypes, my son would invite his friends over and they were all like, this would be the greatest birthday ever. And I'm like, yeah, I know it would. We got to build it. So, but it came out of self-discovery. It came out of, what am I curious about? What do I have some aptitude for? And who can it serve? You got to answer those three things, right? Will it hold your attention? Do you have some aptitude? Does it serve somebody? And you need that because there will be points. It will not even be remotely fun. It'll be so unbelievably stressful. You're like, why did I even start this? And those three boxes are what carried me through. Well, what else would I
So
do that's as interesting, as challenging, and as meaningful? All
so
right,
it's
go
kind of
back to
like,
work.
is it like that ikigai thing, ikigai, where it's like you combine the three, like what you
Yes.
love. Okay, so for people who
Which is a
don't know,
highly Americanized version of the Japanese template. The real
yeah,
Japanese template is more about finding spiritual fulfillment than being productive.
okay,
We
okay,
Americanized the heck out of that thing. But yes,
yeah,
it's like the Ikigai.
okay, got it. For people who don't necessarily know what that end result is, I mean, I know you mentioned you got this 3-step framework from your dad, where you set an intention, the strategy, get in motion with tactics, and then pay attention and learn and iterate. What if you don't necessarily know that vision yet? Do you think that you can still set a strategy, or are you just going to take action every day
Oh,
and see what happens?
um, I had no idea what GameTruck was going to be when I started.
Okay.
My intention was how do I find something like there's got to be something better than arcades, right? I just knew this general sense, and I'm like, my job. So this is the thing: it's okay to be an explorer, right? We talk about North Stars, we talk about core stars, we talk about like orienting, like go back to Lewis and Clark. They didn't know the way across the country, but they knew they could find their way across the country. That's the belief I had to have, is I could find it.
That's
And
deep.
so I started with, here's the problem. Like, go back to, what are you interested in? What do you have some aptitude for? Who do you serve? Young boys are underserved with birthdays and connection and playing together. I knew technology and video games, and I was really interested in, what, how could we replace the arcade? I didn't have the answer, but I knew I believed I could find it. And so the part for me was, that was my intention, to get in motion. All right, I do research. Step one, I went to the big trade show up in Las Vegas. There was a couple of them. One of them had to do with audio video. The other one had to do with consumer electronics show. E3, I used to go because I was in the industry. So I had like do a lot of research. Like, what are the options? I started calling anybody and everybody that was involved in arcades, arcade cabinets, MAME cabinets. Like, tell me about this. What's happening? What are the barriers? What's going on? Um, and the pay attention part is where things start to bubble up that weren't in your plan, because you're in motion, because you're talking to people, because you're making connections, because you're putting energy into the world will make a move back. And I think that's probably one of the biggest. I don't agree with the whole set a BHAG and relentlessly drive. And I never had that experience of success stacking like Lego bricks, where you just like put one foot in front of the other and you're there. For me, it was always this twisty, turny discovery path. But I'm an innovator. I didn't take the kind of business that had already been formed and copy it and say, I'm going to make it 2% better. I didn't open a restaurant. I didn't open a hair salon. I didn't open an established business, an established market. I said, this doesn't exist. There's a need here. How can I fill it? And I don't recommend that path. I mean, that is a tough path to walk, because when you find the answer, you're not at the end, you're at the very beginning, because you got to educate people on what you've done. And people do not like to be educated. It took years to get the concept to where it actually became to where people are like, oh, wow. And even today, 20 years later, people are like, that's amazing. What a great idea. I've never heard of that. I'm like, do you have kids? They're like, no, that's why. It's, and even if it's boys, like, yeah, boys, like a lot of people, girls have never heard of it because they're statistically not as obsessed with video games as boys are. So, but that path was the one I followed to try to create something innovative.
Interesting. When it comes to you as a person, if you zoom out, what do you think from a self-awareness perspective, and this could not just be in business, but life too, what do you think is Scott's greatest weakness and his greatest strength?
Oh man, I feel very like instantly my need to prove I'm smart. Like somehow being smart is the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some advantages to being smart. However, there's some traps. It is a struggle that my mission is to get it right, not be right. But under duress and when I'm depleted, I fall back into needing to be right. And that's almost always a mistake. And so for me, that, sometimes it interferes with my ability to communicate. It can interfere with my ability to connect with people and help people. I can get really lost in, you ask some questions. I don't think I gave you one short, simple, direct answer.
I'm cool with
And,
that.
if it's entertaining and informative, awesome. They're not always that way. So I would say that, and if it's not that, then it's a genuine blind spot. And because it's a blind spot, which means I don't know what it is. But I would say that, yes, that's probably the one of that too much of my identity is wrapped up in being smart.
Interesting. That's a good one. Not very common. But I like that a lot. What about strengths? I mean, why biggest strength right off the bat?
I think my superpower is I care. Um, what used to be something that took me a long time and I felt ashamed about was being sensitive. What it really is it's a gift of empathy.
Yeah.
I when I'm in my best space and I'm calm, I really do find people absolutely fascinating. And one of my biggest joys is when I connect with somebody on a level where they really feel seen and heard and known and validated. It's a, and we all, like I said about entrepreneurs, one of the reasons I love coaching entrepreneurs to a degree, I really enjoy working with you. You saw something I didn't see. I didn't start the business you started. It never even occurred to me to do that. And that unique bit of perspective, I think it was Brene Brown said, it's hard to hate people close up, as if hating is the thing you want to do. But it really got down to, it's like, if you get close to people and you get to know them, it's easy to fall in love with them, like curiosity wise or connection wise, or, getting to know people. Not everybody is totally approachable or can I build a connection with, but most of the time I find it is absolutely well worth the effort to get to know people, and root for them. I think that for the most part, everybody I know is trying to do the best they can with what they've got. And I find that very admirable.
Do you think anyone ever truly figures it out? Or do you think that everyone, even if you're 60, 70, I mean, I've asked other people I look up to and they're 50, 60, they tell me they have imposter syndrome, like it, do you think, I guess, and that could be two separate things, but do you think there's people who just got it, or you think everyone's just, like you said, trying their best?
I think you have people that are doing their best, and then you have people that are pretending. That's too mean. It's very cynical. Um, One thing I've learned through being in the entrepreneurs organization where we really prize confidentiality and vulnerability, everybody's got a struggle. Absolutely everybody has a struggle. It's a question of, can you see it or not? Are they showing it or not? And we now live in a curated social media culture where people have for decades now learned how to present well.
Yeah.
And so I think most people have something they're working on, and sometimes things just come to an end. You're just done. I used to coach for a long time, and then the boys outgrew youth baseball and coaching, and all my coaching problems went away because I didn't coach anymore. Did I figure it out? Probably not. But I can look back on it with fondness, and I'm like, what a great experience. And there was a richness of connection and memories that came from that. And I think that's, maybe we're not supposed to figure it out. Maybe the real spice of life is in the struggle, in the engagement of figuring it out. That if we did figure it out, what are you going to do with that? Like, I heard this expressed once that, like, perfection is death because there's nothing else to do. It's perfect. It's finished. You're done. So who wants that?
It's a great frame. I fully agree. Um, how does Scott, how do you want to be remembered?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. I'm not sure I get a vote in that, but if I guess I do because of the way I behave and act. I would like to be remembered as somebody that genuinely cared about the people that were closest and most important to me. Um, that I show up, and I show up in a way that is life affirming, and like the people know I love them. And it's not a mystery. And it's not some puzzle they have to figure out. And that I'm rooting for them. I believe in them, and I want them to have the best possible life they can have. And so, if I can be somebody that they could count on, and somebody who believed in them, and somebody that helped them, that would be amazing. That would be an amazing way to be remembered.
Are you, great answer. Are you spiritual at all, or have like a religious background, or you think we're, you know, here
I
like what do you
am
think comes
Christian.
after you? Okay. Same.
So,
Same.
I
Yeah.
came at it later in life.
Okay.
And I came at it intentionally because I wanted. I've seen babies born. I have witnessed people passing. I believe there's more to life than chemicals bouncing around. And the um, I have been living my best life when I try to live the values and the relationships that I get from my faith. So it inspires me, it lifts me up when I'm down, it encourages me, it makes me a better human, and I find that worthwhile. So that's my
Do you,
personal. Uh, so that's the best way I know how to answer that question. But it's not my
was it,
job to recruit; other people do the recruiting. I just
right,
try to
right.
live the life um, to be a peacemaker and an inspiration would be my goals.
As a Christian myself, sometimes I find it hard to find the balance between making money and giving back, or having a being a steward and not getting caught up in just money's not even real. It's just points, right? It's all a game. How do you like, how do you take a step back and balance that and not realize that
Oh,
it's not
dude,
all
I
about,
struggle with it too.
yeah.
It is, you have a million things pulling on you in a million directions. It's always, uh, it's so my personal thing is that's a daily conversation. It's a daily prayer, if you will. I mean, literally,
Mhm.
to get it right. It's endless tuning. That's to me, that's the dynamic tension of life. So this is the thing. You said, do you ever arrive? Do you ever get it there? It's like, no. And nothing in biology does. Nothing about who we are as human beings says that there's ever this point that something stops. And in fact, stopping is death. It's, the two halves of your brain are still, what is it? Routinization or novelty? Which one? We have two eyes, two hands, two legs. We're constantly in this dynamic dance of life. And so to me, I'm like, can you live with that? I call it the tango. You make a move and life makes a move, or you make a move, spirit makes a move. Like, are you open? This was you set a direction, there's your intention. And once you start moving, the paying attention is life is going to move back towards you. You don't want to miss that part. So for me, that's the daily balance. It's a, you can say it's a daily struggle, a daily challenge, or it's the things that makes every day worth living, because you just don't know. So you just do your best.
It's
We got a
refreshing to
little
hear.
philosophical there. But
No, I
that's how
love
I
it. I
do it.
like to get tactical and deep, so it's great. It's refreshing to hear that coming from you too. Because a lot of people, we talked about this briefly over text, but a lot of people sell their soul, or a lot of people just they made it and they think they know everything. And even if they have, from a financial perspective, maybe they're rich and sad. But to have that fulfillment and still be humble enough to know that you can always learn more, and humble enough to say on a live podcast, no, I don't have it figured out. Even at the level of success you have, it's refreshing to know, like, to dudes like me who are trying, we're just figuring this out day by day. So it's pretty cool.
You're you're in great company. And there are people that have whatever more is, right? Certainly there's some people, but I've also seen the reverse. I've seen people that had all the barriers taken away and their motivation collapses with the lack of resistance. So they sit around and do nothing. And people that can barely get by are like getting on planes and traveling, going, I'll be a digital nomad. I'll do this. I'll do that. And we learned when we were making video games, I learned that creativity craves two things: chaos and constraints. And there's this illusion if we got rid of all the constraints, we'd be happy. And I'm not sure that's true. I think we're creative beings. And so we need the challenge of change. Unpredictable, unplannable change will happen to us. And we need constraints. There's not enough. There's this, there's that. I mean, there's something between a scarcity mindset, which can trap you and you're in just almost delusional denial, And somewhere in
Mhm.
there, I think is an abundance mindset of like, I have what I need right now to do what most needs to be done. And I can take that step. And that's the step you take.
Do you think you should optimize for money earlier in life so you can live a life that you want to live when you have a family and have kids, and like grind now the hustle culture in your 20s? Or do you think it's like, hey, just, figure it out along the way, but don't put so much pressure on yourself when you're young?
I don't know. I mean, the world you live in now is so different than I did because we didn't have social media in the 80s and the 90s. You
Yeah.
could make mistakes in your private. You could overdo it and fall back. It just things didn't follow you around the way they do today. It feels so heavy right now. Like just the nature of your question, like I have to make this choice. And what I've learned over time is anytime it's either or, you've fallen into distorted thinking. The universe is never either or. Nature's never either or. So the step comes back going, can you break it into what's a most likely outcome? What's the least likely outcome? What's a somewhat likely outcome? Can you come up with three choices? Can you find a way to find a third path? Can you work hard and allow enough room for this? Like, are they really mutually exclusive? Or is that an illusion that's brought on by our current world of if you're not extreme, you don't get noticed? So all we see are extreme examples. And some of that is the nature of the algorithm. They take extreme examples and pull them into the center where everybody can see them. And as soon as they become normal, they get kicked out by the next most extreme example. And so we don't really get to see what balance looks like. My thing is it's the balance of hustle enough to build your future, and you got to counterbalance that with relationships. To me, it's relationships, 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 and connection. If there's one thing I believe that's really probably crazy controversial, I don't believe in an authentic self. I think that's actually a myth and an illusion. I think the authentic self, like to be an authentic self, says, "Oh, I'm going to be myself everywhere, all the time, at the same time." That's ludicrous. Nobody does that. You're raising kids. Okay, you behave towards children in a way that is appropriate to behave toward. And if they're babies, you wipe their bottoms. You don't do that with adults. Like your behaviors absolutely shift and map to the appropriate level of care for that person in that context. That's completely normal. That's actually the norm. The real
Is that
identity is you're the intersection of all the relationships that you're willing to put time and energy into maintaining. And the real risk not is do I make a lot of money to be happy later or do I try to be happy now, is while you're building your life that's meaningful to you, are you building enough relationships so that you're stable? What I would not want anybody to go through that I did was at 40 when I quit my job and I basically told, the company, screw you guys, I'm out of here, cash in my options, beat it. I walked away from everybody I knew. Every single relationship I had outside my family was work related. I didn't quit a job, I quit my identity. And I found myself at home on my birthday playing. I was blessed. I had a family that loved me and they only knew me as me. If I didn't have that, dear God, I don't know what I would have done. So to me, it's this: what is the relationships you want to be building while you're also building your future? Because when you get wherever you think you're going, you probably want to go there with people you like and people that
it's
are
like
happy to see
the
you there.
it's like the phrase where it's like I've heard it the other day, where in your 20s you're focused on the destination, in your 30s you realize it's all about the journey, and then in your 40s 50s you realize it's all about the company. um to kind of wrap things
As in
up.
people, not the business.
Correct.
Who are you
Correct.
with?
Right, exactly. To kind of sum things up, what's the greatest piece of advice you've ever received?
Um, both from my dad. Number one was his advice to me at my wedding was show up, which is pretty funny, but was also deeply meaningful. Like show up in your marriage, show up in your life, be there, Show up. It's not something you're not buying. This is not a transaction. This is not a thing to do, a box to check. Show up. So
Yeah.
that personally was very profound for me. And I've been married to my wife for over 3 decades. We have three
Wow.
grown, beautiful children. And I've had a great life with her, and I continue to have a great life with her. So that was a great piece of advice that served me well. And we touched on it. He called it his dumb luck theory, because so much magic would happen when he set an intention, got in motion, and just paid attention to what was going on. People like, how did that happen? And he goes, must have been dumb luck. What else could it be? Right? Couldn't plan for it. Couldn't, I give you a very, if I may go on a little bit, I'll give you a very specific example that's played for me recently. We had an unexpected relocation of our franchise in Portland. And we had less than a month's notice to move a business that had been located there for a decade. If you haven't moved recently, moving sucks. It's really tough. And I went up there and I was in motion. I'm like, I need to find a place to put our trucks. I've got plans. I'm sending out feelers. I'm doing everything in my power. And one of 3 contractor yards pops up on a Tuesday morning. I had flown in Monday morning. 24 hours later, this lot pops up. I couldn't have planned for that. I couldn't have picked it. Drive over, see it. Yes, this is me paying attention. Got it. This is the place to be. 42 hours later, all our equipment was parked on that lot. We had vacated our other premise. Done, gone, problem solved. Was it magic? Maybe it was just dumb luck. But had I not been in motion, had I not had the intention of what I needed to find, and had my, paying around, like I'm out looking, I'm talking to people, I am doing everything in my power, I don't find that lot. I only find it because of all the energy I put in, and my mind was primed to look for it. So I would say that has been super valuable and served me very well.
Gary Player, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Thank you so much, Scott.
Exactly.
I appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you at, and GameTruck?
So GameTruck's easy, GameTruck.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at Scott Novis, and ScottNovis.com. You can find my content about kids and video games.
Awesome.
Reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, please, dude. And Scott's an amazing person. If you ever want to join EO, especially if you're in Arizona, I mean, what a great chapter. It's already been so awesome for me. So
it is a great chapter.
Thank you.